Yo, yo, yo! Welcome to Poetry Around. I'm Mariana.
I'm Ariadna.
I'm Cristina.
Okay, today we're going to talk about contemporary poetry and we'll study two specific poets, Antonio Mendez Rubio and Kenneth Goldsmith. Two guys that we've read on a class that we have together.
Yeah.
We
Like the class.
Yeah. And contemporary poetry is usually defined as poetry written after the start of the 1920s, and some critics extend it until the 1950s. The problem with this is that within the category of contemporary poetry, we find many differences, but it is still a style of poetry that follows a specific series of traits and literary tools like, an inconsistent meter, variations upon standard rhyme, abandonment of classical style, variations on the conventions of poetic lines, also known as free verse, etc., etc. And so, Ari, what do you think, what do you know about Mendez Rubio?
Okay. Mendez Rubio is a poet. He was born in September 1967. It's from Spain, and it's also a professor at University of Valencia. I did my research and I found out some critics place his poetry in close proximity with avant-garde movements.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the language is a nuclear topic and tries not to reduce the truth and reality to a fact that already given and closed. Also, did you know, guys, that philosopher Maria Zambrano?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've read some things about
Yeah,
her.
so
I haven't, but I know her.
she created something like Método de Razón Poético, and it's linked with the poetry of Antonio Mendez Rubio.
Okay.
Yeah. So he claims that something as complex as reality is not made by facts, but through language. That's very important. So, in summary, the works of Antonio Mendez Rubio tends to deconstruct the discourse and open new possibilities to understand the real world.
That actually makes me think about his book of poems, La Verdad,
Yeah.
which, as the title says, is about the truth, and how, as you were saying, the truth is not an absolute, and we can see that in his poems, how he tries to find out not the whole truth, but bits and pieces of the truth, pieces that might be true for somebody, but not for somebody else. And he also uses negation as a resource to speak about the truth, what a poem is not, what the truth is not, what nature is not, and how we perceive these things. Maybe sometimes you understand a thing better by what it isn't than by what it is, and how truth is different for each individual. Like, I won't believe the same truth as you do, Ari, or as you do, Mariana.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. As we can see in the poem number 5 from the book of Antonio Mendez Rubio, in this poem he tries to disarticulate and unlearn the tradition. He uses, as Mariana said in the beginning, free verse and some rhetorical figures as prosopopeia to talk about things like the sky, some trees, birds, and of course about poetry itself. So there's 5 things that he talks about in this poem. For example, the time he talks about as a construction to move us closer to death. Also, the poem deals with the idea of originality. Like in this verse, I want to read us, guys. Pájaros. Ninguno vuela solo, ni ninguno canta igual que ningún otro.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So he's trying to say that everyone is unique, authentic, and has their own truth, as Christina said.
Yeah, and if we talk about our second poet in contrast with him, we can say that Mendez Rubio wants to unveil part of the truth and discover the different kinds of truth, while Goldsmith does not care about the truth in any way. What do you think about this, Chris? What do you know about Goldsmith?
I agree with you. I think Goldsmith thinks the truth is overrated. And to give a little context on who this guy is, his name is Kenneth Goldsmith, as Mariana said in the beginning. He's an American poet, an academic, and he is famous for taking parts of books and newspapers and something as mundane as traffic announcements and putting them together to create his own poems. he can talk about things as fashion, shopping, or as decades such as the 60s or the 80s. And these writings that are not his own talk about the same subject, however, they take different perspectives. And this is where the truth aspect comes in, because he's trying to give an aspect of the truth, but he doesn't really care about it or the originality of it. Goldsmith believes that creativity is dead and that he can be truly original. That's why he doesn't write it, he just puts it together, which is a characteristic of conceptual poetry that wants to get a reaction out of people, and that it is very important that it is read and that it is listened by a public space, which might seem that it is new, but it's actually something that comes back from the lyric poetry. And in the question of originality is also the question of plagiarism, because since it's not Goldsmith's own words, then it's the question if he's actually stealing from the people or if it's like he's creating something new. And it might not be plagiarism since he does create the original authors in the written form, but as I said, it's important how he reads them, and he doesn't create them when he reads them. What do you think, Ari?
Well, I don't think it's plagiarism. He just has different sources to create something new. Like in the poem Department Store, did you remember, guys?
Yeah.
Yes. He used newspapers, magazine, and stuff to create the poem about stores, capitalism.
Yeah, as you said, there's paragraphs that talk just about capitalism and its negative effects on society and how consumerist culture is consuming all of us, but there's also literary excerpts in the poem, such as Truman Capote's Breakfast at Tiffany's, and there are also informative paragraphs that talk about the history of department stores in New York, stuff like Macy's or Burberry and all these stores that we continue to go now in the present. However, they don't exactly fit together. There's an overarching theme, and we know that these things talk about one thing in particular that ties them together. However, as much as they complement each other in a way, they don't quite feel complete. It's not a complete poem, rather a construction of something.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what's the name of this game where you put some pieces together to create
A puzzle.
Yeah. That thing. I think it's like a puzzle mainly because he approaches an issue from many perspectives because he thinks that there is nothing original. However, the combination of voices that make up his poem also make up his vision of this subject or issue. He does his poems, which are particular things from the public things. So I think Mendes Rubio does the same thing with his poems because he deveils little truths of the tangible reality, but contains all of them in a poem. I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know. I think both of them has this resource of kind of way of make poetry, that they made up some list of things that they are observing, like trees or department stores, but with different purposes.
Yeah. And they both don't believe in the conventional definition of truth, or that there is just one way to frame it. And also, they both think that poetry comes from the use of language rather than the actual content of the poem.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us in Poetry Around. We hope to see you again. I'm Cristina.
I'm Ariadna.
I'm Mariana.
We'll see you next week to continue discussing poetry, art, and everything you're interested in. Bye!
Bye.